In the previous section, I introduced const and let, which are features of ES6. In this section, I will introduce default parameter and object.assign, which are also the features of ES6. I created a project named v04.defaultParameter object.assign. In this project, I made a file named index.html. This line of code demonstrates the default parameter. And this line of code demonstrates the object.assign method. First, I'm going to explain about the default parameter. If this parameter is undefined, this object will be assigned to this parameter as a default value. Let's run the browser to see the result of state. As you can see, the state is also the object we place here. It's because in this function, I don't put into it any parameter. In other words, that state is an undefined. Because it is undefined, the default value here will be assigned into it. Let's pass a value which is not undefined into this function. Now, the state here doesn't receive the default value anymore. Similarly, if I pass a null into this function, state also doesn't receive the default value. The only case that parameter receives the default value is that the undefined value is passed into the function. Let's check the browser to see the result. The result is just like I've said. I delete the undefined here to make it shorter without changing the meaning. Next, I will talk to you about the object.assign method. I summarize how the object.assign method works here. The object.assign method copies enumerable and own properties from a source object to a target object. This method returns the updated targets. It means that the returning result here is always equal to the target here. In Reducer, we should use object.assign method to clone a new object from the current state by passing an empty object as the first parameter and passing the state as the second parameter. To update the properties of next state, you can pass the objects as the next parameters of this method. For more details, the first parameter here is the target. As you can see, target is an empty object. The second parameter here is also the first source object. This source helps to update the target into an object similar to it, as you can see here. The third parameter here is also the second source object. This source helps to merge all its properties into the target. This object has A property and B property. Then, in the target object, the A property and B property are updated, as you can see here. Similarly, the last parameter here is also the last source object. This source has only one property, which is B. Then, in the target object, only B property is updated, as you can see here. Finally, the object.assign method returns the updated target and assigns that target into the next state variable here. Let's check the browser to see the result. The result is the same as I've analyzed. Now I want to explain one more thing in case you wonder why we use an empty object here. It helps to keep the state unchanged. In the Redux, you are not allowed to change the state directly. Let's remove it to see what will happen. The next state also gets the result just like when we kept the empty object. The difference is that state is updated directly in this case, since state is a target now. You must keep an empty object as the target so that only this object changes. Then the state is a source and it is unchanged. So far, I've finished talking about the default parameter and the object.assign, which are features of ES6.